In the last stream, we were working on using our newly renovated island to organize and simplify our production line here. We kind of reset up the production for basic mechanisms, and we finally fully automated the production of the compressed mechanisms using our new, bigger 4x4 pressure chamber and an awful lot of integrated dynamics. Now, between streams, I did realize a slight problem, and I've gone ahead and fixed that problem by adding in our rotational speed controller here. The problem that we were having is that our steam engine was spinning very fast. At first, I thought that was a bug, but it was the same problem we had previously, and that is that before I had this not named, which meant that I was actually tapping into somebody else's create setup, and they had already sped theirs up. So when I put my energy transmitter down, I was using their speed to have our air compressors go very, very fast. And so since then, I've changed it. We're now using our own pressure, frequency, and we have our rotational speed controller down, speeding that up. And so we're not producing any more pressure than we were before. We're actually still at the maximum speed for both of these compressors, but we are now doing it with our own pressure as opposed to stealing somebody else's. Also, in the last episode, I didn't mention it, but we're now using these small smooth stone bricks for our base, and these, thankfully, are super easy to get. We smelt cobblestone into stone in our furnaces. We then use the chisel here from the Rechiseled mod. Super easy, it's 1 iron and 1 stick, and then in here we can just drop the stone in, and I'm using that to make smooth stone. You can, of course, if you want, smelt normal stone into smooth stone again, and then from there, over in this guy, the mason table, we can put this in, and then the smooth stone brick is pretty close to the bottom. It is this one right here, small smooth stone brick. Select that, shift click, it's going to make a full stack of it. The chisel and the table have no durability. You can use them as much as you like. The mason table, super easy to make in this pack. It is just a brick, some iron, a crafting table, some wood, and clay, all of which you can basically get from the shop. And then on top of that, I did also purchase some dark oak saplings and then use those to get some dark oak trees, which we have right here. And then these are framed stairs from the Framed Blocks mod. Framed Blocks is super nifty in that you can make all of these untextured blocks and then essentially texture those blocks with any other block that doesn't already have a stair. So for example, here we have got these framed stairs, these guys right here. By the way, framed cubes, super easy, just wood in stick and plank form, and then you craft those into the stair pattern to get framed stairs. You put those down like this, and then, for example, we could take these small smooth stone bricks, right-click those on, and now we have small smooth stone brick stairs, which are not a thing by default, but you can make them with the framed stairs. For me, all I did was throw those down and then use some dark oak logs. Specifically, I used the dark oak wood here that you get, of course, by tearing down a dark oak tree. Ultimine makes that very easy. And then you just craft these, of course, like this to get the dark oak wood. And then you can put those down like this to get the logs. And so that is how I did that for those who are wondering how we got the base design, how it currently is. And back over here, between streams, I was talking to the Twitch chat, and I think we have come to the conclusion that the pump here is the problem, not the encased pipe that we had previously. I think there's just a limit on how far you can pull with that create pump. Down here, most of our coke ovens are basically full of creosote, and I think it's really only pulling from some of the nearest coke ovens, and even then I think it's doing it slowly, to the point where, you guessed it, I think we're going to have to pivot over to using even more integrated dynamics to move our fluids around. Just like we were doing with the lava in the last episode, I think what we're going to do real quick here is craft up 9 fluid interfaces, put those fluid interfaces onto each of the coke ovens, get rid of all of the create pipes that are currently down, put a fluid exporter directly onto that spout, and I think that's going to allow our system to very rapidly move all of the creosote from all of the coke ovens into that spout to hopefully increase the production rate of these basic mechanisms. Not that we really need this to be faster right now. We are backing up on these pretty quickly, which is good, but I feel like we might as well get that going just so that it is working. If we start to back up once the draw fills, that's completely fine. And so real quick, I'm going to just get even more of these and hopefully get everything connected up. Okay, so I've gotten rid of all of the pipes downstairs, and I think, hopefully, if we put down the fluid exporter and some logic cable, we should be able, I guess actually we could probably get rid of this cable here. We probably don't need it because there's already cable coming up there that connects up quite nicely. So let's fill that hole in. Let's create a quick fluid variable card here for creosote. Again, this is why in the last episode we wanted to do it for lava as well, because now we have multiple fluids. And over here, export fluid, creosote. Nice, look at that, perfect. And so you'll see it has access to all of the creosote in all of the coke ovens, and that is just instantaneous. It's way faster, it's way better. Down here, we can see that these are all connected up. It looks a little less cool without the copper piping here, and it looks a little janky with the amount of integrated dynamics piping that we have, but it does appear to be working, and we're getting this stuff way faster now because it's able to pull from all of the creosote that's backed up in all of those ovens, which is perfect. And we could also look at some point in setting up a system that also sells the excess basic mechanisms that we have, because we're almost certainly going to be producing those faster than we're producing the compressed mechanisms, and so we could look at potentially selling those off as well if we wanted to, if we thought money was going to be some kind of issue. For now, though, I think back over here we can go ahead and re-engage this setup. It's on that side, Isaac, not this side. That should start re-exporting everything. Again, the only slight problem, actually, that we run into there is pressure. Real quick, I'm going to make maybe 2 more of these rotational compressors, because right now we are using 4,000 stress units here, and then 300. It's like 4,300 stress units in total for this setup. If I added 2 more compressors, that would take us up, I think, over the 8,000 of this generator, but what we can then also do, as we kind of alluded to in the last episode, is we could look at making just another blaze burner with another straw and using that to double up the power, because I'm pretty sure that per blaze burner, you can run a full steam engine at 16,000 stress units. All right, so I've made another blaze burner and another straw. Also, somebody in the Twitch chat has pointed out that we might benefit from these slime boots here. These are pretty straightforward, assuming that you have enough white dye, which I think is all we're missing. Let me quickly do something like this. That should be enough to get us another set of lime dye, which should then be enough to get us another set of slime balls. Boom, and boom. These say that they allow you to travel faster and survive deadly falls. So I'm hopeful that if I put these on, I can move faster. I wonder if the moving faster is just the fact that I can jump like this. That's pretty quick. The actual, like, walking speed isn't seemingly any faster, unfortunately. Like, the sprinting speed doesn't go any faster. Either way, over here, boom, and boom. That guy's also going to receive lava, again, as soon as the train comes back with some. And at that point, we should see the amount of stress units here double from 8,192 to 16,384. And there we go, look at that, 16,384 stress units, because the lava is now filling these guys up. Nice. And so real quick, I am going to go and make 2 more of these compressors. I've also taken the slime boots off because although they do prevent us from taking fall damage, they make us bounce anytime that we jump, and I don't really want to be bouncing anywhere, especially not near the lava. And 2 more rotational compressors later, we can do this with the chain drives, and we should hopefully now be producing the pressure twice as fast as before, which is good. I am probably still going to slow this down even further. We're going to go 100 ticks. So it's going to make 1 mechanism every 5 seconds. I'll keep an eye on this and see if the pressure is like high enough to sustain it. If it is, we could maybe look at lowering it and kind of tweaking it until we get to the right point. But for now, we'll do that. That's hopefully going to keep making stuff and keep making us money passively via the compressed mechanisms while the system does that. And we will check on this periodically to make sure that everything is running smoothly, but I think everything is running as it should, and we've fully backed up on basic mechanisms now as well, which is good. But now that that's done, let's look back at the quest book and back at the pneumatic cage, because the next quest that we should complete, I believe, is this one right here to make the Tier 2 oil contract permit. For that, we need 8 of the compressed mechanisms. We have 3 in the system, and so real quick, let's take that pusher module out so we can back up on a few of those. And then we also need some compressed iron as well, which we can steal out of here. We just need 1 block of this, and apparently we... Oh, I'm a fool! No, stop! Did I get that in time? I did get that in time. I didn't connect them up with tubing. That is my bad. I didn't even put the pressure tubes down, so they just built up on pressure until they exploded. That is definitely my mistake. Real quick, let me put that back down right about here, and let's put some tubing down like that, so that not only can it connect up and actually provide pressure to the chamber, whoops, that's not good, to the chamber, but it can also release the pressure via the safety valve there if things get too bad. Do I have what it takes to make another one of these? I do not. I need 1 more propeller. That's actually fine. Boom, boom, and boom. That's all good. Let me put that back down, and every time I get stuck in here, this is where the slime boots actually could have potentially come in useful, but let me try that one more time. Let's do a bit of parkour. Let's put you down back here, rotate that to face the right way. This time connect it up with a pipe. There we go. Now we should be getting twice as much pressure as we were previously, and now we can come back over here and we can continue to hopefully craft up the oil contract. The oil contract is going to allow us to purchase oil clumps from the shop. I'm going to move the shop over because we've kind of pivoted to where most of the stuff we want to be near is over here for now. So I'm going to put the shop down kind of next to this for the time being so that we can shop without going back over to the other platform. And as soon as we get enough compressed mechanisms here, we should be able to purchase that tier 2 contract, and I think it almost exclusively gives us access to the crude oil and the oil clumps. These have a couple of benefits. One of the benefits is that the oil clumps can be used in place of slime, so we're not going to have to do the whole cactus bread craft anymore. If we want to get slime balls, we can just use the oil clumps, which we can just purchase from the store. The second benefit is, of course, that it's going to allow us to start working on making plastic sheets, which are going to be necessary for us to enter the electrical age. So to do that, we need a couple of machines from Pneumaticraft. Specifically, initially, we need the refinery controller, and I'm going to unbookmark a lot of this stuff up here now because we don't need all of this, but we need the refinery controller. The refinery controller then needs refinery outputs. We're then going to use that refinery to make diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. From there, we can use the thermopneumatic processing plant to convert, I believe it's the LPG into plastic. It is. We can turn the LPG with coal into plastic in the thermopneumatic processing plant, and then from there, we can then use that molten plastic to make actual plastic, and I think the heat frame might be the best way of doing that, so I'm going to bookmark the heat frame as well. It is indeed, that's what the quest book recommends, and so most of this stuff is makeable. It's a lot of compressed iron, and it's quite a few of these compressed mechanisms, which are going to start coming in. It looks like we are kind of just low on pressure, though, unfortunately. Let me, again, disconnect this, because I think that the more stuff that we're trying to import, that also lowers the pressure, and we might even just want to look at getting even more of these rotational compressors. Okay, so I've added another 3 of these compressors to the setup, so we've got 7 of them now, all working, and at the suggestion of the Twitch chat, I've also changed this back to exporting a full stack at a time. The reason for that is that you need to have a high amount of pressure in order to open the door for such a large number of items. We had this set to 1 ingot, and you don't need much pressure to get 1 ingot in, and so we were ending up in a system where there was a bunch of iron trapped in here, which was keeping our pressure low, preventing this chamber from working at all. What we've done now is we've changed it, so we need to have a high amount of pressure, I'm being told 4 bars, in order for the door to open and let the full stack of iron in. At that point, the pressure is going to drop quite quickly because it's going to turn all of that iron into compressed iron, which only requires 2 bar, and that's going to prevent any more iron going in until all of the iron that's in there is used up. And so, hopefully, this system is going to work just a little bit better than the previous one, and hopefully more of that pressure is going to be used to keep this going, as opposed to before, where it was just adding more and more and more iron in there, and then using more and more and more of the pressure to try and convert that iron, but then the more iron was being added, and the whole system was headed for bad news. So I think this should now be working, and if we do this, we should hopefully see these getting made again. You'll see already we've got 30 of these, which is perfect. If we go ahead and take those out, we can come back over here, and we can do 2 things. First thing, we can go ahead and make the aforementioned permit, boom, and then we can shift-click that into the shop, perfect, and now we can buy oil clumps. Also, we can buy oil itself. If I'm not mistaken, to do that, we are going to need some kind of bucket. Let me go ahead and quickly craft one of those, and now in here, if I were to Control-Shift-Click, we can buy 1 bucket of crude oil. Nice. And so now we can look at making the oil refinery, which does require some reinforced stone slabs. That should be fine. We do have stone smelting up over in here. If we take none of that stone out, I've used it all. Okay, fine. Let me get more stone smelting in here. Am I really fully out of stone? I am really fully out of stone, but we do have reinforced stone, so we can go ahead and make some reinforced stone slabs. I'll make a few of these, and then from there, we need a small fluid tank, which requires iron bars, compressed iron, and a fluid tank. And then looking ahead, the thermopneumatic processing plant also requires 2 of these small fluid tanks. And then we didn't bookmark it, but we also do need these refinery outputs as well. And I believe we need 4 of these, and these thankfully don't require any of the fluid tanks, but we are going to need to make a few of these anyway, which is even more copper sheets. I have put some more copper onto smelt, but I think it's probably not a terrible idea to take a quick detour and just add at least copper, but potentially even almost all of the other ingots that we have available to the lineup here. These drawers can hold an awful lot, so it would cost us a lot of money if they stayed on all the time, but I think that might be fine. That could be famous last words if it ends up being very expensive, but I think I might take a quick detour. My shop is now all the way over here, of course it is. Might be worth getting a second shop as well, but I think I might take a quick detour and set up one encased fan for copper, but then also maybe one for zinc, one for aluminum, one for lead, one for silver, and one for gold. Just all of the resources that we can currently buy. There's also uranium, osmium, and rutile. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but I think I might set up maybe 5, 6 more encased fans here to get all of these online. Alright, so not too long later, and we now have 6 more depots, 6 more buyers, 6 more encased fans, 6 more chain drives, and 6 more funnels, and we just need to do 2 things here. The first thing is we need to, of course, set these all up to actually purchase the ores that we want them to purchase, so copper, and zinc, and aluminum, and lead, and silver, and gold. And then on top of that, we also need to put puller upgrades into the 6 compacting drawers as well to allow them to actually pull from the depots behind them. Thankfully, these are not particularly difficult to make. Can we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hoppers, and then immediately upgrade those to 6 puller upgrades? We can indeed. And then we'll just right-click those onto all of the drawers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and make sure they're all set to north. And then the very final piece, actually, is to get the linking tool out and make sure that everything is connected back up to our functional storage drawer, because otherwise they are not going to be visible in our terminal here. So again, just like before, we need to make sure that these are connected. Thankfully, we're already configuring the storage controller up there, so we just need to right-click on the new drawers, and I think there we should be good to go. We do need to go ahead and move these over manually to begin with, and then we also want to make sure that we lock the drawers as well to make sure that everything stays where it should. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, perfect. And so now that should just work, and we should have all of this stuff being made. We are probably going to start to lose money potentially because we're buying a lot of ores that are just going to start to back up in that drawer, but I think that is fine. I think we should have enough money to keep us going for a little bit of time. So, in the time that took us, we do now have more copper ingots, and we can, of course, use our hammer here to make more copper sheets. And with those copper sheets, we should now be able to make a couple of these create fluid tanks, if we do something like this. And we also do need to get some more barrels as well. That's completely fine. Thankfully, we got all of our oak available to the system now, so we can just do this, this, and this, and get really as many barrels as we like, at which point we can make a couple of these small fluid tanks. For that, we are going to need more iron bars. That's also fine. Let's make a full stack of those. And then it's only the 1 fluid tank for the controller. Boom. And then we need 1 thermopneumatic processing plant. Boom. And we need 4 of these fluid outputs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. That's that taken care of. And then I guess whilst we're here, we might as well also see if we can make the heat frame. For that, we need a furnace, and it looks like we might be missing 1 compressed iron there. It looks like we have 7 in the system. We do indeed. That's fine. Over here, we can pop into our crafter or into our chest here and steal some, although we are fully, again, out of compressed iron, which is unfortunate. Again, as soon as this gets up to 4 bar, that should put the full stack in here. It did, like it opened up for that iron to go in, at which point the pressure drops. So this is working as intended, and then we get more compressed iron. Either way, back over here, boom, and boom, there's our heat frame. And that should be a lot of these quests complete. Gosh, we're going to get a lot of buckets here as a quest reward, and also that is not at all what I wanted to do. I think we can remove that. You can, if you hit it enough, you can indeed remove it. Let me claim these buckets. And then here, this also wants me to get a bucket of molten plastic, which we should now be able to start working on. So, in order to get this working, I'm going to set it up over here. We might end up moving this at some point in the not-so-distant future. But if I put down my refinery controller like this, we then need to stack the refinery outputs on top of the controller like this. And essentially the way this works is we put the oil into the refinery, like so, and the oil will then get turned into different resources depending on how many refinery outputs you have on top of it. For example, if we look here, you can see that if you only have 2, you'll get diesel and LPG. If you have 3, you'll get diesel, kerosene, and LPG. And if you have 4 outputs like we do, you'll get diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG. The LPG is really all that we're after, so if we wanted to, we could potentially cut out the gasoline and the kerosene and just get that LPG, but if we want to be ultra efficient in the future, I believe we can turn kerosene into LPG via gasoline. We can, so we can repurpose both the extra gasoline and the extra kerosene into even more LPG, and that LPG is used to make the plastic, which is what we are after. That is where the thermopneumatic processing plant comes in. This guy is able to turn that LPG into plastic. Now, the place where this gets tricky is in terms of heat. In order to turn this crude oil into all of those outputs, we need to get the refinery up to, I believe, 100 degrees. We do. It needs to be greater than or equal to 100 degrees Celsius, and right now, the temperature is -2 degrees Celsius, which is not ideal. So there are a couple of things you can do here. The easiest and simplest solution, which is not at all sustainable really, is to just take a bucket of lava and put that down next to the setup. So if we were to somewhat awkwardly do something like this, the lava goes down, and that does increase the temperature of the refinery, and as soon as it gets up to 100 degrees Celsius or higher, it's going to start turning it into diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and LPG, which is good. And it puts each output into its own refinery output, which is good, because then we're going to pull from the LPG into the thermopneumatic processing plant. The thermopneumatic processing plant also works in kind of the exact same way. If we want to get liquid plastic, we need to heat up the LPG to greater than or equal to 100 degrees Celsius. So I'm being told by the Twitch chat that we can use a blaze burner to make this happen. Let me give that a try. The trouble with using lava, by the way, is that the lava doesn't last. So the lava will turn into obsidian, and then when the lava turns into obsidian, you run into problems. For whatever reason, it didn't want to shift-click this in here, despite the fact that we definitely do have... Oh, it's brass. I keep forgetting every time. It's not gold, it is brass. And annoyingly, brass cannot be made with the hammer. We have to make brass with our mechanical press here. So let me quickly get 4 more plates, and then let's see if the blaze burner does work, because as you can see, that lava has just turned into obsidian. Okay, so 1 blaze burner later. Of course, if we want to automate this, we will almost certainly use a straw, but just as a proof of concept, right now we're at -2C. If we put this in, the temperature does go up, not quite as fast as with the lava, but I think that's probably fine. So long as it does get to 100 degrees Celsius, which it may or may not do. I'll give it some more fuel just to keep it going here. It's getting warmer, but I don't know if it's going to get all the way up to 100 degrees Celsius. There are things you can do to keep heat in the refinery. I think there's some kind of like padding that you can make. Thermal lagging is the item I'm thinking about. This requires wool and glass. A thin layer of insulating material which can be applied to the surface of heat-using machines to prevent their heat loss to the air does not block interactions with the block behind it unless you are holding a wrench. So this has gotten up to 69 degrees Celsius, and it looks like it's not getting any higher. That could be due to a lack of insulation on the machine. So real quick, let me take more of these industrial hemp seeds, do a little bit of her growing with those seeds, and let's see if we can't get enough wool to make some of this thermal lagging, and see if applying that to here does help with the temperature at all. Okay, so I made 1 batch of thermal lagging. We're probably going to want more of this, but if I were to start putting this around the machine, I am fairly certain that we can still access it. We can. It does look, though, like that is helping get the temperature up, and so I think it is possible that if we put enough thermal lagging on this guy, we might be able to get it up to 100 degrees with the blaze burner. The big benefit there is that we just don't have to worry about it too much, because the blaze burner is very easy to automate, especially with the straw. Let me put a bit more thermal lagging around this guy. We're at 87. Let's continue on up, because I'm pretty sure it can lose heat via all of these faces all the way up. Is that pushing the temperature a little bit higher? We're going down. That's because we're out of fuel in this guy. Let's give him a few more, and hopefully we're going to get up much closer to 100. Yeah, it's creeping up. It's creeping up. I think we will get there. We have blown up here. That surprises me, because the safety valve is right here. Maybe we need a second safety 2 module further up. Maybe the pressure here was lower than the pressure up there. That is odd, though. I'm going to have to make another one. and another 2, actually. And maybe put a safety 2 module further up. Okay, so I've replaced those down, but this time with another safety 2 module just further up there to hopefully prevent that from blowing up again. Either way, over here, this is about 160 degrees Celsius with not quite a full amount of thermal lagging. The higher the temperature, the faster the oil will get converted, by the way, so it is worth having really as much heat as possible. So we do want to put, I think, even more thermal lagging on around this. And then we are going to want to make another blaze burner because we need to basically do the same thing here for the thermoneumatic processing plant as well. So we want to get even more hemp to make even more string, to make even more wool, to make even more lagging. And then we'll also get another blaze burner to put under the thermoneumatic processing plant. And I guess we'll also make 2 straws as well to keep our blaze burners fed with lava that we can export using our integrated dynamics fluid exporters. Okay, so I've made another blaze burner, and I've placed them both down here. I've moved everything over to this side of the base just because we already have cable down here, and I think it's going to be easier to throw down some more of these fluid exporters over on this side. We just need 1 more of these output variable transformers. Sure, boom, and boom. At which point we can also use our portable logic programmer here to hopefully tell our system to export lava to these guys. So just as we did before, we're going to select fluid, we're going to put the lava in, and then we're going to go and make 2 of these. Perfect. At which point we can then hopefully do something like this, and then put in to export lava to both of these guys. Then we give each guy a straw, and there we go. These are now hopefully going to be producing heat for both of these machines, and both of these have got a decent amount of lagging on them. We could of course put potentially a bit more on like this, and there's lagging on this guy as well. We do need to extract the LPG from the top refinery and set it down into the thermoneumatic processing plant. I think for now, I'm probably just going to use a fluid pipe to do that if we do something like this. I think what we need to do, though, is take... This is where it gets a little awkward given the way that we've set this up. I think what we might have to do is take the lagging off the back. You can't put lagging on both sides of a machine. What I mean by that is we can put lagging here on top of this, but we can't then put it on the side here. Like, you can't have 2 in the same block. What we could do, though, is I think if we break, say, this bit of lagging, we can then do this, and then just kind of run this down and have that connect there. That will work, and that will bring the LPG down from the top into here. We do also need to get another buyer to buy the oil automatically. So we'll take this, and then if we put that down here, I'm pretty sure that we can then set that to auto buy oil just as soon as we get a bucket of oil. So in here, if I do this, never mind, there is a fluid buyer. I thought these were one and the same, but they are not. Right here, there's a fluid buyer that I need. That's fine. We'll take you, and I guess we'll repurpose this guy somewhere else later on in the playthrough. If we throw down the fluid buyer, we can then put in the crude oil. There we go. And now if we extract that into here, which again requires that we get rid of this and do something like that, we should then be able to set that to extract, which we can do with our engineer's hammer. Shift right click, boom. That's going to continuously buy oil and pump it into here. And then so long as the temperature here is high enough, which it currently isn't, it should hopefully just work. I'm a little worried that the blaze burners with the lava are not able to produce enough temperature. It looks like with the straw, they don't go to 100 degrees. It's only with the coal fuel that they go to 100 degrees. That could be a problem. In that case, what we might be able to do is swap out the fluid exporter here for an item exporter. So if we put the blaze burner back down, what we could probably do, because we are producing coal coke actively, I think it's quite possible that we could put an interface onto the coal coke drawer and then export that coal coke to the blaze burners. Okay, so a little bit of testing later, and the item exporter does not work. Neither does a hopper. I was under the impression you could just hopper like fuel into the blaze burners, but apparently that does not work, and neither does the item exporting either. If I put the coal coke in there, that doesn't work. If I put regular coal in there, that doesn't work. So I think what we might have to do here then is we might have to use these deployers to deploy the coal into the blaze burners. So my first question is, can I rotate these in such a way like that? I can. I think this needs to be 1 block away though, if I'm not mistaken. I think these need to go down kind of right about here to be able to deploy in the way that we want them to. So if I rotate that to face up like that, I think that'll work. And then here, if we rotate this guy like that, he'll also face up. And then let me move some of these cables just so that we can potentially throw down another energy transmitter here to get both of these online. And then we should just be able to export to both of these and have these guys receive the coal coke from before. So if I do this and this, we already have the item cards for coal coke because we used them just a second ago. So this does work in terms of these guys both getting coal coke. And then I'm fairly certain that if we were to go and grab one of our energy transmitters, we should be able to just put that down on to one of the deployers, and that should just work. So energy transmitter, boom, we'll take you. Right now, we'll just set that to the default Isaac frequency, and we'll put it down right about there. So let's set that to Isaac, tick, those should start spinning. And then we go, that deploys coal coke into the blaze burner, and it should continually deploy coal coke into the blaze burner going forward. And so now we should see the continuous supply of oil being purchased from the store, getting turned into all 4 of these outputs, and then the LPG we want to extract from here. That's going to go around down into here. And again, as soon as this gets up to temperature, we now need to export coal into this guy to keep that going automatically. We do have coal being produced. The coal is being produced downstairs. What we could probably do here is tap into that coal that we have by adding a buffer drawer with a storage downgrade. So if we take this drawer, let's also make sure we've got an item interface. We do. Down here, we're already making coal in this squeezer, and then that coal is being extracted via this extraction module. What we could potentially do is just go ahead and maybe get rid of this, put down a drawer here, that then wants a downgrade as well to make sure it doesn't hold too much. But then from there, we could just add an interface to that, connect that up to the system, make sure we get another extraction module and put it in the top there so that the system can continue to send coal coke around to the coke ovens. Of course, if we really wanted to at this point, we could get rid of the pretty pipes entirely and just use the integrated dynamic system to send coal coke everywhere. But in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just throw down this medium extraction module into here like that. That should continue to extract the coal from here and send it around to the coke ovens as and when it's needed. And it should also give our system access to coal because now we can go ahead and put down yet another item exporter onto the thermopneumatic processing plant. I guess it's going to have to go down on this side. Sure. Let me make sure we have an item exporter, and let's make sure we get rid of the thermal lagging again. Boom and boom. Of course, we can put a facade there to cover that up. And then finally, we just need to get some regular old coal. And once again, using our portable logic programmer, we can go boom, item, coal, and we can begin exporting coal automatically to the thermopneumatic processing plant, and that should begin making molten plastic. It does, cool. So now we need to take that molten plastic, and if we want to turn it into regular plastic, there are a few ways we can do this. The easiest way, that is definitely not very efficient, is just to take a bucket of molten plastic, which we do need to extract anyway because the quest book wants us to hold a bucket. So let me do this, and that should be a quest complete. It is. If you just put this down in the world, that will just solidify into plastic, but that only gets you one plastic. If you instead throw down a chest, you can then place, or any inventory I think will work, but we're going to take the chest with the heat frame. I believe we can place down the chest like this. We're going to have to get rid of, again, another bit of lagging. I think that's fine. Because, oh, whoops, that's not what I want to do at all. I think that's fine because I think the chest also counts as insulation on this side of the block, so we should still be good on temperature. If we then right-click the heat frame, this is now going to allow us, I believe, to take a bucket of plastic and place that bucket of plastic into the chest. If I press U on here, it does show here, it says put the input material in an inventory with a heat frame attached and chill the heat frame to below 0 degrees Celsius. Bonus output chance, 1% chance for extra plastic sheet per degree below 0 degrees Celsius. Multiply limit is 1.75x. So essentially, if we can get this chest to be cold enough, we can then export the bucket and we'll get more than one plastic. Essentially, if it's at 0 degrees, we should just get one plastic, and the lower we go, we can get all the way up to an average of 1.75 plastic if we can get it cold enough. Now, To get it cold enough is where it gets tricky. I believe we can make what is known as a vortex tube. This thing pretty straightforward to make, and the idea here with the vortex tube is that you provide this with pressure, and then it uses that pressure to produce a hot side and a cold side. So here, for example, you'll see that the cold side is now at negative 270 degrees Celsius, and the hot side is at 350 degrees Celsius. What we can do then is we can take this chest, place the chest itself down on the cold side with the heat frame, and you'll see that the chest here is now at negative 150 degrees Celsius and climbing, or declining, I should say. And now if we put this in here, we get 2 plastic sheets. So we just get more plastic than we would have done previously. And so I guess what we're probably going to want to do here, we don't always get it, of course, it's a 1.75x multiplier, so we're going to get 2 more often than we get 1, but we're also going to get 1 a decent amount of the time, 25% of the time, I imagine. So I guess what we probably want to do now then is we want to take the molten plastic that's coming out of here. We do need to get it, I believe, into bucket form, and then we need to get it into the system. So for that, I think it might well be worth setting up another spout like this, where we send the molten plastic to a spout, send the buckets to the depot, and then have buckets of molten plastic be made, and then have those sent to the chest, and then have the chest also extract the empty buckets back round to allow us to fully automate the production of plastic. And then from there, we'll also have to look at, I believe, getting rid of some of these excess outputs, because I think if these do all fill up, the system will stop working. So we want to, eventually, in the interest of efficiency, look at turning the gasoline and the kerosene into LPG. The diesel, I don't believe we can turn into LPG. Oh no, we can turn diesel into kerosene, then we can turn kerosene into gasoline, and then gasoline into LPG. So we can, in fact, if we wanted to turn all of these eventually into LPG to massively increase our plastic production. The benefit of plastic production here is that we need plastic in order to progress on and set up these PCBs, which is what we need to kind of work towards next. Because if we look in the shop, we can sell these electronic components. Those are kind of the next thing on the list right here, which we can sell for profit. But then after that, we have the PCBs, which are also sellable for much more profit than any of the items that we've been selling so far. And to make PCBs, we need the electronic components. The electronic components require the compressed mechanism with capacitors, transistors, and copper wire. The capacitors and the transistors both require not only the pressure chamber, but they also require plastic sheets. And so that's why we do need to automate the production of those plastic sheets to allow us to fully automate the production of these finished PCBs, which I then assume we're also going to need to progress forward onto whatever the next tier after that is. If we want the single board computer, I assume that that single board computer requires a PCB. It totally does, yeah. So that is something we're going to have to do. For now, though, real quick, what I would like to do before we wrap up for today is I would like to sell my coins. I think we might have more in here as well. We do. We don't need to keep those lying around. But we also do have a quest for the time in a bottle. And the time in a bottle here is actually super useful and not particularly difficult to make. I believe we're just missing the glass bottles here. We should have, I think, everything else. We totally do. And the benefit here of the time in a bottle, for those that don't know, is that we can store this in our inventory, and as we store it, we're going to accrue time, and as we accumulate that time, we can then spend it to make things faster. So you can go forward in the future and shift right click to accelerate a machine. Each time you shift right click, it's going to spend more and more time, but you can go and make a machine twice as fast, 4 times as fast, 8 times, 16 times, 32 times, I believe all the way up to 256 times as fast if you have enough time inside of that bottle. And there are just certain times going forward where that's going to make our lives a fair bit easier. As soon as we get to 30 seconds in here, we should be able to show it working. And so then we would just need to have something we can actually accelerate. For example, the furnace over here is a pretty good example. I did set up the millstone again over here temporarily to allow us to make gravel. We should probably look at fully automating the production of sand and glass, because right now it takes a lot of dedicated time, effort, and work to make sand, and it's also very slow as well, as you can see. But if I were to take that sand out, over here we could throw that sand into our furnace. It's very slow, but if we do this, we can make it 2 times faster. If we do it again, we can make it 4 times faster. And if we had enough time, we could even go further and take it up to 8 or 16 times, etc. and just make the smelting of glass way quicker. And of course, you can do that for basically any other machine that you want. But anyway, next time we will come back. We will look, I think, at starting finally on Chapter 3, although Chapter 4 is also now available as well, so we can look at either of those as we move on to the next episode. We're going to need more of these pressure chambers to automate both the capacitors and the transistors. That should be fine. We're finally going to get into some bigger machines from immersive engineering, some of which it looks like we are going to need to progress forward here. Titanium as well. It looks like the recipe for the PCB, I'm assuming, has been tweaked. It has indeed. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do there in terms of setting all that up. And it looks like an AE2 system is really not too far away either. That would be an interesting setup and would make it easier in terms of auto crafting stuff going forward as well, because right now we're doing all of that manually. But yeah, next time we'll come back, we will potentially look at setting up more of these thermopneumatic processing plants. We'll look at setting up the automation for actually getting that plastic to come in automatically. We might have to move some of this stuff because it's getting a bit cramped on this platform here. Between streams, I'll probably move some of this stuff here and this stuff here to try and make this a bit more usable. And I might even look at adding more platforms or making this current setup a bit bigger as well to give us even more space to do more stuff. But those are all problems for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Forever Factory there.